I seem to have gone live. You have caught me in the future thinking about music from the 1970s, actually, from prog music from the 1970s. I'm lying here. I just finished bathing, and I'm thinking myself. I'm listening to Yes, listening to roundabout like Yes, because I've been starting my days. I've been starting my days with the Logical Song by Supertramp for I don't know, a couple months now, probably. Ever since I made that short about that song. Wow. I guess it's actually been a couple of days before my birthday, so it's about I've been about 5 weeks, maybe 4. So about a month. And I've been doing that because uh, I'm of the opinion that complex thoughts breed complex thoughts, and complex music is a complex thought because these people have to, whether they're thinking about it or not, they're expressing a musical thought, right? And prog, I choose prog because complexity, and then I've been listening to 1970s prog instead of the music I would normally listen to, like Kailasa. I've been listening to 1970s prog because 1970s prog was progressive because it was progressing or pushing the boundaries of what was even allowed in music at the time. And so I'm sitting here and I've led myself. What I'm doing is I'm leading a conversation in my own head with people who aren't here. And so I thought to myself, well, you may as well just go live, because if nothing else, uh, this might not be a long one unless you sit and decide you're going to eat your onion, your calories, last night's calories that you didn't eat. But I might, because I didn't. I only spent $7. Let's just call it $9 on food yesterday. I have an extra $6 lying around that I could spend today if I wanted to. Um, but I am trying to hold back on my spending because I'm only going to have about $20, give or take, of my Patreon payout this month, and that's got to last me until the 25th. Hello from Sydney, Australia, my friend, Doug Draper. Um, I am a homeless person who's kind of talking to himself, meditating on what he's listening to, and what he's listening to is 1970s prog. I'm listening to Rush. No, I'm not. I'm listening to Yes. And what I was thinking to myself, every time I hear this song, Roundabout, I always think to myself, okay, the intro I could take or leave. That bass riff, that boom, that's fucking sick. That could be the whole song. That could just play for 6 minutes. Hello, Zachary with an E, and Shaggy Sachin. I'm gonna assume that's Sachin, not Sachin. Um, that could be the whole song. And then as the song progresses, I lose interest. Just what I was thinking to myself is that prog was prog because it was progressing what things were allowed to sound like, but they didn't always go in interesting directions. They didn't always make good choices. So, like, I worked with a kid. I call him a kid because he was at least 10 younger than I was, who had much, much older parents. And so his favorite band was not Molly Thatcher, shit. The one from the UK that I can never remember. Moving on. He had this, his favorite band was this ensemble supergroup from the 70s. I haven't touched alcohol in years, and I've never done drugs, so I don't know what you're talking about, Zachary. Uh, the only things that are difficult are the things that we make difficult for ourselves. So what's difficult for me is eating as a homeless person. Thank you for the likes, and thank you for sticking around. Um, Damn, I really wish I could remember the name of that band because it's important, because I've been trying to listen to them too. They've got a band I did. I've been trying to listen to them because when I doom scroll my Google recommended news, I read a lot of music news, and this band, the members of the band have recently begun to talk in public, and I guess one of them died recently and was a huge influence on music. I don't think he was David Gilmour, but his name is like that. I don't know this music. I don't know these people. My dad didn't. My dad didn't listen to '70s prog from the UK. His favorite bands were like Boston, so he liked progressive stuff, but he liked a very specific brand of American progressive. And so anyway, last night I just hello Carrie. Last night I found myself. Yes, it's a very nice spot. That's how I opened. I'm gonna assume that's Jakob, and that's why I'm doing this right now. I don't really have the. I'm fine for the most part. Well, don't assume I'm not addicted to anything, Zachary. But I'm not on drugs. And I would prefer that you didn't explain to me what my situation is like. Um, okay, so Doug, you don't know me, but I have what's called pathological demand avoidance. And the syntax that you just used was imperative. You just told me what to do in a demand. So what I'm never going to do is look up whoever that is. And the assumption that I would get a laugh from him, you don't know me well enough to recommend things to me, and you most certainly don't know me well enough to recommend things to me with imperative syntax. So if you would like to share something with me because you like it and you would like to share it, there are other ways to frame your sentences. Doug, it wasn't nice knowing you. Try again tomorrow. Zach, if I were angry, buddy, you would know. Try again tomorrow. Okay, goodbye, David. And so anyway, I was listening last night. I just happened to find myself listening last night to George Harrison of the Beatles before bed. And I realized that the one Beatle that I've never seen an interview with or heard anybody ever talk about or I didn't know anything about at all was George Harrison. I was like, well, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to watch the full thing. And so I ended up watching him talk to, I always want to call him David Carradine, but that's not right. Um, I ended up watching him this talk show from, I'm assuming it was the late 70s, but it might have been the 80s. Um, and George Harrison is talking about how he never thought they were particularly good. And I'm lying here listening to Yes, listening to Roundabout, and I find myself pulling from a quote of that quote. It's just not that good. And what I realized is that he was talking about Lennon and Paul McCartney. That I went and did some research, mostly in the comments, but I did some research, and I guess George Harrison wrote a bunch of songs. Well, he talked about it in that interview actually that he really had to fight to even ever get one or two songs on the record. He said they would have had to have done 102 records for him to even have the songs that he wrote in 1965 released as Beatles songs. And hello Amber. Um, that's an impressive uh, amount of production to be just completely ignored by your band. And so when he's saying, I just didn't think it was all very good, he's talking about the Paul McCartney production and the Lennon stuff. And he just didn't think they were very good. And then I'm reading in the comments of the video where he said that, and there was this guy who said that he was a kid when the Beatles were big, and that all of his friends grew up to be musicians and all this, and everybody was inspired by the Beatles. Everybody was inspired by the Beatles. And that George Harrison was wrong, that that stuff was good. It was particularly good. It was very good. And George goes on to say, when the interviewer, I can't remember his name, the interviewer asks him, like, well, do you think that the stuff now is good? And he goes, well, the stuff now is so bad that it makes our stuff look good. And that really hit me hard as I realized that I'm 38 years old. And I'm listening to music from a decade before I could have been born. I'm listening to music from before my father was born, looking for quality music, not just quality record production, quality music. People with music in their souls that has quality because they're not shit human beings. I almost got on here yesterday because I found myself listening to Stairway to Heaven. And I'm listening to Stairway to Heaven, listening to Stairway to Heaven, and I'm not paying any attention to the fact that I'm listening to Stairway to Heaven. And then Robert Plant starts singing about this woman. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing listening to a guy who used to serially molest teenage women talking about some woman and giving her lessons about her hedgerow? What the fuck is anyone doing listening to this song? And immediately skipped it. And it's so... it's not that the music back then was actually better. I don't know why you people are the way you are. I don't know why you come to my channel. I don't know why you exist in the manner that you exist, but I would really prefer that you didn't. And then 2 days ago, I was listening to the song I'm listening to right now, Freebird, and I just couldn't stop sobbing. Just couldn't stop crying because it's like, I've never heard anybody say a bad word about the Van Zants, about this band. I've never heard anybody say that they ever hurt anybody. But lyrically, the songs are about regretfully disappointing a woman. Tuesday's Gone, Freebird is about leaving a woman to go play music because the town you live in is too small and you can't make a living. Sorry, baby, I'm already a Freebird. I signed that record contract. Yeah, that's why I just don't respond anymore. You just try again tomorrow, Jaden. I've already got the record contract. I'm gone, baby. I already made decisions with my life that don't have anything to do with you because I didn't marry you. I'm not committed to you. And I talked about that a little bit, that women used to be the one that told men, I'm not committed to you. I'm just letting you sleep in my bed. I'm in a little woods on the other side of Coles. Yes, James. And I know that the people who commented on it didn't really get what I was saying. Every man used to be homeless until he was married. And then building your wife a bed used to be a ritual that only the two of you would ever sleep in it. And so there used to be old country songs. I used to ride the bus, and one of the bus drivers, she would put on old country music from her iPod into the speakers. I can't do rap, Jakob. Oh, this is the band. Steely Dan. That's why I had Molly Thatcher in my head. I knew it had a name in it, but I couldn't remember whether it was male. I just don't like rap of any kind. I don't want to talk about it. I'm over here talking about 70s progressive music not being very good, and you're going to introduce rap, which doesn't have a single instrument in it. So I can't with rap. I don't consider it music, and I'm not trying to denigrate you, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings or make you feel like I need to relax. Steely Dan. I worked with this kid whose favorite band was Steely Dan. I don't need to know that, Pittman. If you need to share that, make your own channel. I'm sure that it has lots of samples, Jakob. Like, the argument between the difference in human instrumentation and sampling is not one that I want to have with you. It's just, if you can't tell, if you can't know the difference, I'm not here to hit you in the head with it until you do. I'm sure. But what you didn't do is say, this is the name of the guitarist, this is the name of the saxophonist, this is the name of the keyboardist, this is the name of the whatever. Yeah, I'm asking you to leave because I can't do rap and you won't stop with it. Do you people not understand that I'm the one speaking? My opinions are the ones that you are here to like. I'm not here to talk with you. That's why I'm not like, thank you for that like during that. But anyway, I'm not here to badger you today. I'm here to listen to progressive music from the 1970s and talk about how the the good music, what you all tell me is good music, you can't know. And I'm trying not to talk about this, but I was also listening to Rick Beato talk with Maynard James Keenan the other day. Yesterday? The day before? I don't want to keep viewers. I literally asked him to leave. And check this out, love. This is what I've been doing to most of you. Now I never have to know your opinion about anything ever again. Anyway, I'm listening to Maynard James Keenan and Rick Beato talk the other day. Two individuals I've grown intensely to dislike as human individuals, just human people. And Rick Beato is going on and on and on about this thing he's coined called the algorithm age, and that we all are fed everything that we view or that we consume through algorithms, and that the algorithm never allows us to experience new things or things that we might not like. And then I'm a YouTuber who has 288 subscribers, but 1,500 monthly views, regular viewers, which means that the algorithm is regularly feeding people me, and there's no way that all of these people behaving as they're being all over my comments section here are being fed me because they watch my kind of material on the regular. So the algorithm is actually constantly trying to feed you things unlike what you like. If he, Rick Beato, had ever engaged in Spotify's radio or Pandora Music's radio, these algorithms that he's denigrating as not giving people anything new, long enough, he would know that after the first page that that YouTube and Spotify that they cultivate for you, the second page after that is trying to duplicate the first page, but not quite as good at it. And by the third page, it's an entirely different genre of music you're listening to now. And that's by design. The algorithm is designed to not be tight, because if it's too tight, it gets repetitive and boring and you turn it off. And so if what you're using YouTube music for, the radio stations, is what I use them for and what they're designed for, because they're called radio to replicate the experience of turning the radio on and leaving it the fuck on for 15 hours like people used to do, what you don't want is for it to get repetitive and stayed. Even when I'm sitting in Panera, even when I'm sitting in Panera, and I sit in Panera for maybe 8 hours a day, most days, maybe more than that some days, the playlist doesn't repeat in an 8 hour section, which means that some human beings sat down, because they're always the same songs in the same order every day. Some human beings sat down and cultivated this 8 hour playlist of songs to not be repetitive, to not be thematically disengaged. And that, to me, first of all, is an art. Playlist curation is an art, but there's a human touch there. Humans did this thing. And so he just doesn't know what he's talking about. And it makes me crazy that he has a platform of millions of people and that he gets to sit and talk to people who are significantly more intelligent than he is. And he says these things and nobody ever pushes back on him. And that really bothers me. And so he has to be wrong, because there's no way that these 5 likes, that these 6 people sitting here with me, that this person who's trying to interrupt my flow, that these people are fed anyone like me in their algorithm. So he's wrong. Your reliance on the algorithm is to find new things. I have conversations all the time with people who are like, man, I'm so grateful for your work because everything that I'm subscribed to on my own, that I go to on my own, is staid and boring because I'm in a rut with what I watch. Because all of the creators that I watch are watching the same things because I subscribe to all of them at the same times and I haven't gone back and curated my subscriptions to my current interests because I don't know what my current interests are. And so they say to me, I'm not doing a Trump thing. This actually happened to me yesterday. But it's not just one person who does it. And this isn't about my Patreon subscribers today. This is about introducing new people to my work and new Patreon subscribers that I can then thank in the future when I do thank my Patreon subscribers later today. Anyway, they say to me, thank you for having such a wide and varied number of interests. Because I didn't know what I didn't know. This song is actually a quality song. Long Train Running by the Doobie Brothers, which is funny because I don't know that the Doobie Brothers could either. I don't know that they're another band that could be said to have never harmed anybody. I'm sure they harmed lots of people on the way through what they did because they stole all of their instruments from a music store to begin with. So they harmed that music store for sure. Now back in the day, back in the 60s and the 70s, that was less of a crime because the stores had better insurance. They could afford better insurance because they had significantly more people coming through and buying instruments. They were more expensive per instrument back then, but more people had more money to spend on them back then, and that's just how economics work. There were more people playing music and making money on music, so more parents were willing to invest in instruments for their children, and there were fewer radios in the house. So having a child who could play the piano or the keyboards or who could play um, a pleasant instrument like the saxophone or the acoustic guitar was something that a family wanted to have around because now there's music in the house. There are a lot of kids, especially not a kids. I'm sorry. There are a lot of musicians. If you listen to interviews with musicians, especially who grew up in the '90s or who got into music in the '90s, so they grew up in the '80s or they grew up in the '70s, got into making music professionally. I mean, in the '90s, will talk about how their parents bought them their first instrument because the parents wanted music in the house. Which is so funny because when I told my parents that I wanted to play bass, that I wanted to play music, and I wanted to be serious about it, they told me I wasn't allowed to play bass because they wouldn't recognize any of the music. They didn't, and then they didn't want me to have an amp for my guitar, and they didn't want me to get good at it because they didn't want to hear it, and they didn't encourage me to sing because they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want the music in the house. And so a lot of kids suffered from that too. There are a lot of people who are professionals in music because they weren't allowed to make noise and music in the house. James Hetfield feels like, I don't know if this is true, but James Hetfield feels like a prime example of that. Um, his dad seems like the kind of guy who just didn't like loud noises. But then, like now, I'm listening to "Don't Fear the Reaper" by the Blue Oyster Cult, and these also weren't people who left no harmful footprint behind them. Like this song is absolutely date non-consensual sex, so uh, or like that song "Blinded by the Light," blinded by the light, rode up like a deuce. You know the roller in the night, right? That song is about a 13-year-old girl pressuring him into sex so that he can have a record deal. The record exec that's scouting them, I think they called it A&R. Is that right? That's probably not right. They don't have them anymore, but they used to have a guy who worked for the record label who went out and scouted talent and then developed the talent. Um, and so this talent scout is watching their band, and the story of that song is about how his 13-year-old daughter is pressuring the lead singer into sex that he doesn't want to have with her, and the band is like, "Do it! We need the record. We need to sign this record deal." That's what that song is about. If you actually listen to the lyrics, um, a lot of the songs from the 1960s and 1970s and the 1980s are about illicit sex with girls who are decidedly under the age of 16. Um, and it's something that adult women at the time laughed at because many of them had had those experiences in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, leading up to the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It was something that society used to laugh at, and I'm not saying it's right, uh, because I'm a victim of childhood molestation, not from an adult. And so I've spent a lot of my life asking, where did the boys that got this idea to do this to me, where did they get it from? And so I'm talking about a generational sickness now that's in our music. And so, like, when George Harrison said that he just didn't think the Beatles' music in the 60s or the 70s, like actually, they were only a band for like 6 years. So, like, their latter catalog, when he said that, I just started, they weren't very good. He's talking about their catalog just wasn't good. He's like, our music just wasn't very good. The songs I wrote, I liked, but our catalog wasn't very good. And it's really interesting to me listening to guys who are far enough away from a band and a music from having played it that they can be honest with themselves enough to be honest with an interviewer, even one in George Harrison's case with, I'm still not going to get his name. I just hoped I would be able to trick myself into getting that interviewer's name, and I didn't. But his show, um, George decidedly didn't trust the interviewer. He kept talking about how he didn't trust the interviewer. He kept telling the interviewer that he didn't trust the interviewer when the interviewer kept asking him trap questions like whether he thought that the Beatles were responsible for LSD going mainstream in the 1960s. I just accidentally locked my phone. When this interviewer is trying to trap George Harrison, turn this where I can't see the comments anymore. I was gonna try to take you guys seriously, and then it's just not fucking worth it. It's just not fucking worth it. It's just not worth it. And I don't think I can actually turn the comments off up here. No, I can't. He tells him, it's not our fault. It's not our fault that the fact that we did and experimented with drugs got out into the mainstream. It got out into the mainstream because BBC journalists wouldn't stop asking us about it. He even talked about how Paul McCartney told a journalist on the record that, yeah, I did it, but if it's in the record, or if it's on the record and it goes out into the mainstream, it's because you did it. And so if people experiment and say, well, we experimented because the Eagles or the Beatles experimented, what you need to be printing is that they're telling people that they're experimenting because the Beatles experimented because I wrote an article about how the Beatles experimented. And of course that interviewer, David, whatever his name was, got all butthurt and throws him a whatever, right? Now the whatever was to a different thing in the interview, but he was extremely dismissive and rude to George Harrison, which I don't like. But I didn't like that interviewer started going off on a tangent about how he doesn't like conversation. He doesn't like talking to people, even though it's his profession. That if he were in a party or in a busy room, he wouldn't actually want to talk to people. And that's why he's such a shitty interview, because he doesn't actually want to get to know George, and he doesn't want to help the audience get to know George. He's paid to talk to George, and he's paid to have this shitty attitude, so he's going to talk to George. Now, this guy, David, whatever, he might have been a comedian. And that would make sense. Comedians don't like passive conversation. It's like Lars Ulrich was trying to talk about this with, I was listening to Lars Ulrich talk to um, Bill Maher about this. And Lars was remarking on how in a room full of musicians, a comedian will be the loudest speaking person. And he thought it was funny because musicians are deaf. And so you would think that musicians would be loud, right? That they would just speak at a higher volume. And that's interesting. Because what Lars was getting at is that comedians are comedians because they need a lot of attention, a remarkable amount of attention. And they get that attention by standing in front of a room and shouting at it. And so on some level, This is a farcical sort of comedy, and I am a sort of comedian. I'm a sort of fool, and what I'm doing is something that's funny because it's ridiculable. It's absolutely ridiculous to go out and try to speak to the algorithm about how the algorithm's actually good. It's actually good, actually, because it's created by human beings. Like I had this conversation last night with a Patreon subscriber about how I don't love that YouTube's live product is a ball of shit. I don't love that when I'm screen grabbing, it's called screen casting. When I'm screen casting, I can't see my comments. I don't love that. I don't love that their product is a piece of shit. And he goes, well, they're already a megacorp. They don't have to improve. And it's like, well, they have improved dramatically, even since I've been homeless. Because, in large part, I'm sure, of my complaining about the shit nature of their product. There are humans that hear that the product they make is not good and get in their feelings about that and are going to fix it. This is why when we're at a restaurant and somebody puts onions on the burger that we asked no onions for, we say, hey, there are onions on this burger. I asked for no onions. This is why we think this is why we think. This is the reason that we believe, that we think is why we go online and bitch about things like social justice in our video games. Because we think that that's the product. We think that that's going to fix the product. And so, yes, when someone says to you, hey, I know a chill spot, this is what they're talking about. I am homeless, and I chose this spot because it is chill. I have, in fact, read his manifesto. Yeah, he's also very stupid and very wrong. Everything he says was wrong and demonstrably wrong at the time. And so all the projections that he tries to make are demonstrably wrong and demonstrably false. Josh, hey buddy. I almost said you can see what's up, but you can't really see what's up. I'm chilling in the tent until my battery dies. I've got my I've got my phone on my external, my last external, and I've got 53%. So I'm actually riding pretty steady. I don't know how much battery I've got left though. My external, both of my, I got 38 of my external, so that's what's up. I'm chilling. I've been talking about music a little bit, and I'm starting to wind down. I'm starting to run out of things I want to talk about. I can't see because I'm not wearing my glasses. Give me a second. I don't know what your name is, so I haven't been addressing you by name for the future that can't see the comments. And I can't remember his name, Ted Kaczynski. This guy asked me if I've read Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. I've read Ted Kaczynski's manifesto, and I've been studying Ted Kaczynski since I was a little kid, because my dad might be autistic, and one of his particular interests was people of mass violence. Okay, well, Minato Speed is talking to me about Ted Kaczynski's manifesto, and he asked me if I'd read it. I said I had read it, and then he goes on to tell me, I guess, the audience of one other person here with us, Josh, hello Josh, that the contents of the manifesto and what the contents of the manifesto are. I tell him that the contents of the manifesto are wrong, and then he argues that he's not saying that he was right. He's saying that he was right. And so Minato is now saying, I'm not defending him, I'm just saying that he was right, and that his actions were the right ones. So I'm going to move on to Josh now. Hey, Josh, you got the job. I'm fucking stoked to hear that. Of course I remember you, Josh. You're the Josh that I talked to the other day that I said, hey, are you the Josh that sometimes hits up my comments? And you said no, and we talked for like an hour. I don't remember you telling me that you were looking for a job, but I'm stoked that you wanted to share that with me, man. That's the biggest fucking compliment I've gotten in days. I got to be careful. Mr. S watches these and he compliments me. So I got to be careful about how long it was I got a compliment. But I'm fucking stoked for you, man. You can't see my face. I hope you can hear it in my voice. That's fucking sick. I'm glad to hear you got a job, man. I'm not responding to the other thing because of my, we've talked about this. We talked about my monasticism and my religion, and my religion is to tell you no, and I don't want you to do the thing that you want to do to celebrate. I want to celebrate with you and tell you no, so I'm just not responding to it. I'm fucking stoked for you, man. That's great. That's great. What are you doing now? I'm sure you told me. I was thinking about other things when you told me. I do want to, I would like it if you would tell me again. Hey man, if I'm OG, I'm just OGV. I'm just true to myself and the experiences that I've had, like maybe I'm OGR, original golden rule. That's right. You told me that you were a warehouse supervisor. I totally remember that because I asked you immediately after you told me. You told me and then I immediately asked you again. So this is 3 times now that you've told me and I totally remember that. You're a warehouse supervisor. That's fucking sick. Are they going to have you working bananas hours? Do you want to be working bananas hours? I couldn't do warehouses because of the hours. Where I used to live in Columbus was about half an hour away from half an hour away by car from Etna, where the Amazon warehouse was. And everybody's like, well, you own a car, just go to Etna. It's like $15 an hour. It might have been like $25 an hour at the time. And I was like, I can't handle the hours. The demand will have me losing that job within days. I'm stoked for you, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're back at work. Heard that. Okay. So you're just trying to put your life back together and you found labor. Basically what people thought that I needed with Amazon. So I know where you're at and I know what you're talking about. Hello from I'm in Ohio. So it's cool to hear that I'm reaching you in Bulgaria. When I was in 7th grade, my very best friend was named Ivan Ivanov. I know that name is basically John Johns in Bulgaria. And so I'm sure that what you're thinking is, oh, his dad was in political asylum. And you're probably right. But his mom made the best fucking bread, man. They were the coolest family. They were absolutely Bulgarian immigrants to Mooresville, North Carolina. And he was the coolest fucking kid. Hey, man, I'm glad to hear that I've helped you. That you didn't have to tell me that, and that you shared that with me. When I say you didn't have to do that, it means that I'm recognizing that you're sharing that with me, and that's really fucking cool. I'm glad to hear that you're keeping your head up, that you're getting through your shit. Man, it really is, it's about state of mind, and we can't always control our state of mind, so sometimes it's just about pushing through. I'm glad to hear that for you, man. That's awesome. And supervisor, that means that you're going to be the one bossing me around in this context. That means that not only did you push through it, but you pushed through it into a leadership role. That means that you get to take what you've learned and give it to other people. And I'm fucking stoked for you, man. I believe in you in a big way. I could put my face back on the camera. I keep thinking about it, and then Josh says something cool, and I busy my hands so I can be honest and not distracted. Give him my full attention. Also, I'm not wearing pants, so I'm trying not to be lewd. Oh, I seem to have lost both of you. So I can put my pants on if nobody's here. Well, my friend, I do not know how to pronounce that. It's too many R's. It's too few vowels, my friend. But my new Bulgarian acquaintance, I am not, I'm not a typical American. I am deeply interested in Europe. I have not made it as far east in my deep interest as Bulgaria, but I am interested in the history of your people, the Bulgar people, that word. I'm very interested in it. I don't know enough about it. Maybe that's what I start researching when I get a couple of pennies together to buy a new book. Right now, I'm kind of working on the Magyars and Hungary and that region, and Italy, of course. But like I said, my best friend in 8th grade was from Bulgaria, so I've tried to keep my eye open for Bulgaria. I understand that the Cold War was really hard on your country. Okay, I don't know what TBI stands for, um, but I hope that T is not terminal because that would be a bummer to lose you so soon after meeting you. But I look, I'm proud of you, okay? I'm proud of you for recognizing that you're falling into cycles and doing something about it. That's what I talked about. Man, you show up. You show up so perfectly because I was done talking about what I was talking about, but I was talking earlier about how we can kind of not recognize our cycles and we can kind of get into this rut where we we blame the algorithm that the things that we subscribe to and that we feed ourselves on the regular traumatic brain injury. Okay. Yeah, I've suffered many of those in my life. So I'm not going to say I understand, right? I'm not going to say I understand because I don't know. I don't know. You probably went through rehabs that I didn't, but I'm happy to hear that for you, man. I'm proud of you. Recognizing your cycles, right? Recognizing and then getting out, unsubscribing to thoughts that you don't want to have. Yeah, Bulgaria, um, that whole region, man, the Crusades, that whole 14th, 15th century period in I don't know what you guys call your part of the world. Central Europe, no rehab, no medicine, no medicine. Good for you, man. No medicine, good for you. Don't let them hook you on that fucking junk. It pisses me off. It pisses me off so bad that we call street users of opiates junkies, and the people who are people like Rush Limbaugh who are just wrecked on pharmaceuticals. We don't call them junkies when it's the same fucking junk. The dignity of pharmaceutical addiction really upsets me. In large part because I had a boss. I had a boss who was hooked on pharmaceutical Xanax that she was getting prescribed, and she was useless to herself and everybody because the prescription was when she felt stressed. So what that meant is at work. She used to make me so fucking angry. Powerless people make me angry because what can you do? It's the pushing you to get hooked, Josh. I smoke an absurd amount of weed because I have an absurd amount of pain from old injuries. So I understand the wanting to get away from the pain, and I understand if people want to say, well, you're chemically dependent on the weed. I am. If I go more than 8 hours without smoking, I get nauseous and grumpy and it hurts. But yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't even have a problem with alcohol, with drinking. I don't tend to get along with alcoholics because they tend to be drinking to ignore their cycles. And so that's why I say to you, I'm proud of you that you recognized your cycle. And so that's, if you feel like you need to stop, then you feel like you need to stop. And it's about evaluating to what degree you're willing to commit to that and how much of it, how much you've been using. So like I had a girlfriend. I loved her dearly, but um, I've come to the conclusion that she was a secret alcoholic, or at least she was flirting with the idea of being an alcoholic. And so we used to watch a lot of alcohol documentaries, and we used to watch a lot of documentaries about people who tried to get clean and died from the withdrawal. So just monitor yourself, Josh. I have lived with a lot of alcoholics. My most recent ex-girlfriend was a tragic alcoholic, and there's something that happens with alcoholism where you stop being able to learn. You go into this kind of you go into this kind of, it's called, I saw that you said something, my Bulgarian comrade, friend. I'll get back to it in a second. I can scroll up, I think. Um, yeah, you're talking to me about the Byzantine Empire, and the collapse, which is when my knowledge of that part of the world, the history of that part of the world fades, because the later politics are something I didn't want to know about, because they're very ugly for your people and the people surrounding you. But it's called anterograde amnesia. Anterograde amnesia. So people who really suffer from alcoholism, um, they suffer from a kind of anterograde amnesia, where they stop being able to learn, and they stop being able to adapt in new ways to old stimuli. And so they it's not so much that I don't like them. Yeah, and the hiding it is where it becomes a problem, where it's like, um, I'm drinking alone instead of with friends, or um, I'm pre-gaming so that I already feel sociable, right? That's where you got to be careful. Where you're like, well, I can't sleep without. That's where you got to start making decisions like, okay, well, is this just what I want to be with my life? And so that interrograde amnesia, is why they start to dislike me, because I can remember, and I'm like, come on, let's progress past this stumbling block with people in my relationships. These are people I've had relationships with, not passive people in my life. These are people I've had intense working or loving relationships with. I cohabitated with a woman. That's why I'm homeless. I cohabitated with an alcoholic who wanted to get clean, and just couldn't adjust to life without alcohol. She just couldn't. the She just found other ways to maintain that anterograde amnesia, so she didn't have to, you know like the 12 steps. Okay, well, don't do, if that sentence means what it appears to mean, don't do the latter part of that. Do the working on the fixing, not the working on the ending. Yeah, it's like a sweet poison. It's more like a prison. It is a poison. It's more like a prison that you get trapped in, feeling like you need it, because your brain gets chemically dependent. Okay, so your brain gets used to a certain amount of chemical, whether that chemical is a poison or not, whether it's like nicotine, THC, alcohol, the release of serotonin after orgasm, fatty acids, whatever it is. Your brain gets used to a certain, when you use frequently enough, your brain gets used to stasis with these chemicals. It gets used to having these chemicals in it. I gotta do some more washing. I'm starting to itch because it's starting to get warm and I'm starting to sweat. And so I gotta start moving toward the next thing. So I'm going to bathe a little bit more. But um, that's what chemical dependency is. Okay, so chemical dependency is a choice that you can make or not make, whatever. I find chemical dependency, I find it irrelevant. So if you want to have a chemical dependency on opiates, whatever. If you want to have a chemical dependency on alcohol, whatever. If you're making that choice, whatever. That's how I was able to survive. This isn't a relativistic survival choice, but it is also, if you choose to make it that. This is how I was able to survive with that woman for 5 years, while also caring deeply about her and wanting the best for her, right? Is that okay? Well, the anterograde amnesia that you're putting yourself through is a choice, and it's a choice you're making, and it's a choice that you're putting me through. Yes, that's what we're working on now, Josh. I almost called you Joshy because I care about you, but some people don't like to be condescended to. Um, and so if you want the dependence, right? It's like cigarettes, or it's like nicotine, right? If you want the craving, and you want the craving to win, it's like, I smoke a lot of weed, and I get cravings, and I'm like, well, I want the craving to win because I want the side effects. I even want the downsides, right? Being a little stupid and people knowing that you're stoned. Whatever. I even want that part. Addiction is where, a sort of treatment of oneself and a looking at oneself honestly in the mirror becomes important, because addiction is defined clinically as any behavior that you choose to do that has a negative consequence on your life. So that guy that played that character on that show, um, fuck, X-Files, Mulder, right? The guy. Yes, it's about your support network. Um, our Bulgarian uh, acquaintance is right. He says he thinks, he's supposing, he's positing or suggesting, but he's right. The literature says that it's about who you surround yourself with. So I talk a lot on the channel. I have a lot of long forms about this, reading the scientific literature, but the definition of depression is having thoughts that you believe are idiosyncratic, because when you express yourself, you feel misunderstood. And so depression is a compound, it's a compression and a compounding of negative emotions that start in the head at expression. So it's not your fault you're depressed, but it's also your fault you're depressed. In the same way that it's not your fault you're chemically dependent on whatever, but it is also your fault that you're chemically dependent. It's not your fault necessarily that you're addicted, but it's also your fault that you're addicted. You see what I'm saying? It's a situation where if you choose to live in it, you can make it a thing that's happening to you, and then you just endure and you push through the thing that's happening to you. But if it's something that you feel is happening to you that you want to stop, then you manipulate your agency in such a way that you control it. Yes, I am saying a lot of words. Yeah, you can be open to the option that you can remain addicted or chemically dependent your entire life and you can die of it. Or you can choose what you're chemically dependent on, and you cannot do things that harm you to get that thing. You see what I'm saying? So if, for instance, you really like alcohol, but you don't like making silly mistakes because you're hungover, then what you need to do is you need to make sure that when you're enjoying the alcohol, you're also enjoying enough water that you're waking up sober, right? And that you're waking up sober, and that you are in control of when those cravings hit you. Because if you're just like, I like being stoned, I like the weed, okay? And so what that means is that it's about keeping the price down, and making sure that I'm not doing things that are harmful to me in the long run to make that money that I'm spending on the weed. Well, fun isn't what it's about. Fun is about brief disengagement from the rest of reality, from work. Well, if you want to smoke at work, then you need to be prepared for the consequences of what happens. Your injury, the injury of someone else, or your termination from that workplace if it's against the rules. If you're going to do something that changes your cognitive state, you need to be prepared for the consequences of your cognitive state being changed. If you're not prepared, that's what prisons are for. They're called penitentiaries so that you can learn to be penitential, so you can learn to apologize for your bad behavior. Not for me. If you want to use crack, do whatever you want. Yes, people need to take responsibility for their actions. If you don't take responsibility for your actions, responsibility will ultimately be thrust upon you. You can't run forever. Well, it's not duh. It's not duh, Ash. It might be duh to you, but you're not taking responsibility for your bad question. You're not taking responsibility for the consequence of my saying. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I never, not to say I never smoked weed at work, but A, I never got caught, and B, I didn't get fired for it. Because I'm a professional who could do that fucking job. I could do that job asleep. Yeah, see, Ash, you're not. You're about to be 24. Yeah, Josh, you got a lot of time. You got a lot of time to figure out your life. And what I would tell you is that your brain isn't on average finished developing before 25. So I would ease up, especially if you've got that TBI. I would ease up on what you're putting your brain through for a few years. I'm 38. I see you, Russ, with your grandpa. Um, I will eventually leave smoking. Well, you might be saying leave, as in he quit smoking, but I will eventually die from the smoking. I'm not concerned about that. I don't have a woman or children who want me to live for a very long time. I'm not turning all of you down. I'm just saying that living for a long time isn't something that I've ever planned to do. Look, if you want to vape, vape. It's like that soundbite that goes around. If you want a burger, have a burger. If you want a French fry, have a French fry. If you want to smoke crack, smoke crack. Just be prepared. Just be prepared that something bad might happen. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making rules. People want me to make rules. I'm just telling you what the psychological literature says. Well, sweetheart, I don't know that I don't know that a simple dichotomy good bad makes sense. So like let's scroll back 5,000 years ago to the domestication of the wild cattle, okay? the food the food produced by the domestication of cattle or the hunting of wild cattle. Aurochs were an extremely dangerous animal to hunt. They were very large and very aggressive. It's not that I don't want to reach old age. It's that it's not something that I'm. Well, Miss Anna, I don't think that's a great way to think about things. What I'm saying is that because I don't have anybody who loves me and wants me to stick around, I don't live my life like I'm trying. I'm trying to stick around. I think that what all of you, would be better to do is cultivate relationships that with people so that they want you to stick around to incentivize you to make good decisions for yourself. And so anyway, scrolling back 5,000 years, you're domesticating these extremely dangerous, aggressive animals. And the food might be good because the food is necessary for growing these big, strong bodies that can then go and get more. And it's necessary for building big, strong brains that can communicate better and write better songs and be smarter and build better bridges and better houses and dig for longer. And the meat is good, but the killing, the hunting, the separating the calf from the family, all of that is bad. Think about it. What's the argument right now with vegetarianism and veganism, right? It's that all of the process of what is good, the food, is in some way bad or unethical. It's in some way wrong. And so this is where religion came from, was to balance that good bad. Some people are completely wrong in what they're doing. Like, he's just completely wrong. Russell Brand, completely wrong. Joe Rogan is completely wrong in what he's doing. Um, it's actually not as relativistic as that. Um, you don't get to tell me where to leave, but I do get to tell you where to leave. I try to remain relativistic, but we even want to be relativistic about relativism, right? So when we say, well, no one is perfectly right or perfectly wrong, we have to be relative about that and say, well, someone probably was. Brian, I probably don't want to engage in that conversation with you because I don't know what you mean by that word. So Brian Kirchner asks me if I believe in God, and I don't know what he means. And I'm kind of doing the Jordan Peterson thing that everybody's annoyed about with the definitions. But I would need to know which God you mean in order to answer that the way you want. Probably not. I'm not convinced that Jesus was a real person or did any of the things that are written about him. Odin, I do believe in. Chill, my guy. I've met Odin. Yeah, first principles first is a philosophical idiom, maxim, Jason Ness. So know thyself, actually. First principles first. Then know God. Get your maxims in the correct order, and then you can minimize maximum. Save me from what, Brian? Are you threatening me? No, Russ, I'm homeless. Drinking water from plastic bottles is a carcinogen, yes, but it's the only way that I can store water in my tent for overnight while I'm homeless. It doesn't cost me whatever, and I can't clean a, okay, but Hail is the name of one of the gods in Odin's pantheon, so why wouldn't God be able to save me, or why wouldn't Odin be able to save me from his daughter? When you say fractalization is... I've been homeless since November of last year. Hell isn't from Judaism, Murder Johnson. What's all fake, Brian? You're telling me it's all fake. Brian is telling me it's all fake. He asked me if I believe in God, but then he tells me that Odin isn't going to save me from hell, and hell is the name of Odin's daughter, so I just don't understand how it's all fake, Brian. I feel like I know something that you don't know, and you're trying to teach me, and that annoys me. It always annoyed me in middle school. Actually, it just annoyed me throughout my education. Like when I got to my freshman honors history class in university at Wright State, and she's talking to me about the palaces of Knossos, but she's calling them Mycenaean. I just had to stop coming to that class. Okay, Murder Johnson, you're illiterate. Well, sweetheart, Annie Bay, I don't remember being... Well, I'm not an optimistic person. I am a positivistic nihilist. But get out of homelessness is relative. I'm a performer in public of philosophical and spiritual ideas with a Patreon. My escape, my rescue from homelessness is about hitting that subscribe button. Like, I'm not here to make friends, guys. I don't know why you think other people do lives. I'm glad to hear that you are optimistic and that you rely on optimism, Annie Bay. Um, but has anybody ever hoped something for you that you didn't want? Well, okay, optimism is something that I'm going to be because I'm a positivistic nihilist. Everything resolves to nothing in the end. Uh, Entropy always wins, but it doesn't have to win in our lifetimes. But the moment you die, it won, and you will die. So optimism doesn't work for me. Well, Chilmagai Philalitheia means lover of truth. All I do is speak the truth. I'm honest. So I'm glad you find it refreshing. I cannot lie. I was that kid. You see comedians talk about this from time to time where they're like, do you remember that myth about George Washington in the cherry tree? He chops down the cherry tree, and his parents come home and they're like, did you chop down the cherry tree? And he's like, I did. I cannot tell a lie. I did that. I actually chopped down my granddad's cherry tree. And when they came home and they were like, who chopped down the fucking cherry tree? I was like, I did. For I cannot tell a lie. Hell is talking to you, Murder Johnson. This is my idea of hell. Talking to people like you. I don't know if we're saying different things, Jason Ness, but I don't appreciate you proselytizing my faith to me without subscribing to me or sending me money. I don't know that George Washington had optimism. I think George Washington had a positivist realism. Thank you, Russ. You know, I can escape from hell so easily, Murder Johnson. I don't think these people know that I can mute and time them out. Okay. I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong. Let me be sensitive, Miss Annie. Um, I hear what you're saying. You're not arguing. You're using the word in different contexts so I can see what you mean by it as a method of defining it. That's why I'm taking the time to think what you're saying rather than just talk over you. I hear what you're saying. That's fine. He was hoping for the optimal outcome, and you're saying that's optimism. Yeah. You're saying that he lived his life as though the optimal outcome were going to happen, and that's how he was able to become the person he is. And you're reaching to me to say that I need to anticipate or work toward optimal outcomes. No, you have nothing to apologize for, Miss Annie Bay. I understand what you're saying. I was being impatient because I'm the one with the microphone. I hear what you're saying. You're telling me you're not using optimism the way I would. Maybe. Maybe, Jason. I'm not reading that, but maybe. America was a very successful country until 2001, Russ. America died on 9/12/2001. I was 14. No, Annie, we share a common opinion. We just use a different word. Gearing oneself, preparing oneself, and executing one's life toward the most optimum outcome, how you're saying optimism, I advocate that. Do that. Do that. Like if Josh, if you're still there, and I'm sure that you might be or you might not be. If you're struggling, just think about what's optimal for me. What makes me optimal at my job or the thing that I identify as. And I know that you're 24, and that's young. to know what you identify as. And so I would just suggest spending time with that. Spend time with that. To thy own self be true, right? To thy own self be true. The words above the door to the oracle at Delphi were, know thyself. First principles first, know thyself. And Annie is speaking wisdom down here. I'm not reading all of it for the future because I'm not good at my job. But Annie is speaking wisdom. Miss Annie, you should probably be doing what I'm doing. You'd probably be better at it in short form than I am. You'd probably be a better communicator. Being female would make more money than I am. That's not even me being cynical in the harmful, hurtful, sarcastic way. That's me being a cynic, philosophically. Yeah, the United States was, from the perspective of the 18th century, especially Europe, from a Bulgarian's perspective, not condescending to you in any way, until 1969, ideal. It was the perfect country. I mourn. I really do. My dad was born the year that our country decided that we were going to turn on ourselves. I stopped researching that because 1969 it just became too common a thread. I had to let it go because it was traumatizing me before I became this thing. Well, I'm not here to tell you that I'm aspirational or that I'm inspirational or that you want to be anything at all like me, but if you wanted to be more like me, I live in a tent in the woods because I like the quiet life. Why are people the way they are? Whatever. Oh man, we've done an hour. Wow. This is barely moving my battery. So this is something that I can do when I'm stressed out about my battery dying. Okay. Because we've got an hour and my battery hasn't moved a single percent. Cool. Grazie, are you Italian? Annie, I'm not allowed to ask that, but I did. I was trying to learn Italian a few years ago, but I was talking earlier with my guy Josh. I'm gonna keep talking about him because I know he's struggling, and he's in my thoughts, and that's how we pray as Philalitheia. See, cool. Ciao. Um, and for a while there, my THC consumption wasn't under control, so I was suffering from that anterograde amnesia, where I couldn't remember things from day to day, so I couldn't pick up the language, but it's a beautiful language. I love the country. Is it inappropriate to ask what part of the country you're in or from? Yeah. Um, it's hyperbolic to say that it was the attacks on 9/11 that changed everything. It was the way we responded because of 32 years of I don't even know how to say it. I don't know what it is, really. Degradation, really, is what it was. Bolzano? Cool. Uh, is that in the Piedmont? Is that up north? I feel like that's actually in the middle of the peninsula. Is that what those are called? Is that what Italy is, a peninsula? Like Florida? That's a peninsula, right? It was the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act ended what Europe used to used to admire about this country. Northern Italy, cool. See, one of my favorite bands is the band, it's just gone from my head now. I can see all of their album art, and the name of the band is just totally gone. November with an E, so Novembra, right? And they have a song called Triste Italiana, and I really like that song a lot. They're from the the northeastern part. It used to be called Friuli. They're from the Friuli region. I'm writing a series of novels, and the first one is set in Genoa, northern Italy, in 900 AD. So Italy is one of my special interests. When I was talking with Russ up here about being interested in Europe, just generally. You can see what I'm doing, baller. So I don't know as much about Bulgaria, but I know a little bit about Hungary, and I know a lot about Italy. And you might be surprised to know I have exactly no interest in Rome. Just no interest in imperial or Republican Rome. Just no interest. I know a lot about it because you can't know a lot about history without, but I just no interest. Yeah, northern Italy is where I want to be in my life. I want to be in the Alps so bad. Yeah, your people are very kind, and yeah. That's why I said I didn't want to argue with you and try to put some kind of Scandinavian worldview in your head, because the things that you're saying are the things that the people that I want to live around believe, so I don't want to take that away from anybody. Driving in, I've never been to Rome, but I've seen tourist videos. Seems like being in Rome is a nightmare. Hello, Agent Leo. I'm not really talking about countries, baller. I'm homeless. I've been talking from my tent. I'm getting stoned, and I was talking about music and curating relationships outside of your algorithm. And so now, just burned my throat. I let that get way too hot before I hit it. And so now I'm just talking to people about where they live. Hey, Rome. Ro, how you doing? This is my friend from Morocco, which I know very little about, except that's the capital of the Moorish people, a la the Reconquista of Spain, and I don't know very much about that conflict on either side. I know your people built the Alhambra, and that's cool. Whoa, that moved real fast. We mean absolutely the same thing, Anna. I just have a decidedly nihilist perspective. You have that old fertility religion, keep going for the future, and I have that Viking, go find a mountain to die on. It's not that we're different people, we're just different genders. So we're talking about the same God, and we're talking about approaching the same God in the exact opposite way. Oh, that's cool that you're a pharmacist and you write. I didn't ask what you do, but I'm always interested. It's not that I don't ask because I'm not interested. Hey, Raker, that's cool. Oh, I didn't mix you guys up, did I? Or are you both from Morocco? That'd be neat. And the pharmacy thing, the pharmacia in Greek is something that I'm always working toward trying to figure out how to talk about, because the pharmakon is where modern religion comes from. And so yeah, I'm always working toward that. And if I don't ask about you, it's not because I don't care. Yeah. You see what I mean when I say that it's not that we're different kinds of people, it's that we're different genders. If you're more like your mom and your dad is more like me, then your mom is more like women and your dad is more like men. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's beautiful to be what you are. The hearts just flowing up my screen make me feel really nice. Thank you for all of that. Hey, hey, look at that. This is what I want my chat for, is for you guys to connect more than for you to connect with me. I would like to connect to you. That's cool, but it's much cooler to see two people from the same place enjoying the same thing, in my opinion. I talk a lot of shit about Europeans, but you guys are cool. Because I'm not talking about you guys. I am from Ohio. I'm in the state. I'm in near rural Ohio. Just a few miles that way is horse farms. And, oh, I'm sorry, Agent. You did say you were from the UK, and I didn't read that out for everyone to hear. Hi, buddy. My little bird friend just come to say hi. If I move my phone, he'll run. He'll dart. But he likes to come over here and listen to me talk and sing, and don't tell me what to do, baller. I make enough money to be able to afford to vape. I can do what I want. Hello, Daniel. Is that Buchan? Buchan? It's the safety. Safety is the thing that I'm concerned with. I'm safe. And it is nice. You know you didn't spell it phonetically, Daniel. I'm not laughing at you. I'm hoping that you did that to be funny. Hey, stop by. Hey, thank you, Raker. I appreciate you stopping by to say hi. I appreciate getting to say hi to you guys more than once. That's very cool. That's a cool experience. I worked retail and service for so long that's something that's a skill set that I could get back into practice with. Yeah, the birds are nice. This bird up here that makes that laser noise, I'm pretty sure that he's an escapee from the pet store. Wow, 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 wow. That noise, I'm pretty sure that he picked that up in a home listening to laser guns with a little kid. Because he's the only bird that does that. You have a golden retriever, that's cool. I love dogs. I was always a dog person, and then I got single, and it was tragic, and I wanted to just let myself die. And so my best friend's wife told me that I should adopt these two cats, and didn't tell me that they were in serious abuse. And so I adopted these two adult cats who had been in just grinding abuse, locked in small rooms, kicked. My little buddy Wiley was just broken. He was just a little bag of glass from being slammed in that door so many times. And now I'm a cat guy. As well. But I love dogs. I didn't tell this story anywhere on the channel, but when I did laundry the other day, I'm sitting outside, I'm just leaned up against the rail, talking to somebody or doom scrolling or whatever you do while you wait 30 minutes. That's actually not what I was doing. I was actually reading the Bible. But anyway, I'm sitting out there and I'm reading the Bible and I'm smoking my vape. I did not see that row. I may have accidentally deleted it, but I don't think so. I'm 38, Buchan. I'm doing great, Toxicity. But yes, the pharmacon, the pharmacy, and the relationship with alchemy, and the transition from the first century Greek magical papyrus, whenever those were, maybe they were the 2nd century, but the transition from the magical Greek papyri to Al Jabir is something that I'm very interested in. Al Razi is somebody that I spend a lot of time researching. I can't afford hotels, Anna. Um, I've never asked about emergency accommodation because I'm not of the opinion that I'm in an emergent situation, because I have a tent, I have sleeping bags, I have food. That's intense, Russ. That's intense. Hey, thanks, Tux. Thanks for wishing me well. It's a good day. My batteries are maintaining. I'm gaining ground on my phone, and my external is 27, so this will be able to hit a natural 2 hours, a natural 2 hour length, and that's good. That makes me feel good about myself. It's good to. I always talk about this, and I should repeat it constantly, but it's always good. I always recommend finding something that you can do every day that you can build on. Um, and lapsing for more than 2 days, so 3 days or more, is random engagement, not intermittent engagement. And intermittent engagement is a good way to learn. Sometimes what you need to do is just put down what you're working on and do something else, and then come back to it with the fresh mind, because your brain will have been working on it while you weren't cognizant that you were working on it. I need to put music on in my ears, so this is probably going to disconnect me for a second. And now I need to get rid of that song, because that's not the one. Hey, I was talking about, I accidentally called Yes Rush earlier, and now I am listening to Rush. I didn't want to guess that that's where he spent his service, but I had a feeling that he was involved in Afghanistan in the 70s. Garden poppy fields. No doubt. I should say now that my father was a soldier. He fought in Honduras. He was discharged in 87. No, he wasn't. He was discharged in 90. I'm gonna eat my breakfast to justify still being here. It's almost noon. It is noon. So I'm gonna justify still being in my tent at noon by eating my breakfast with you guys. And then maybe I'll get lucky, and there'll be $5 more in my Cash App, and I can get real lunch. Hello, Shaggy. Raggy. We have a similar identifying name. This, Miss Annie, this is my dream. This is all I've ever wanted to do with my life. We sit in front of a microphone and talk. I'm sure that mine means something a little bit different than yours, Raggy. You sound like you're referencing Scooby-Doo, but we're both probably stoners. I worked table service retail for 15 years of my life. There's no shame in honest work. Hello, Mark Costello. I don't know the band Triumph. I'm sorry. That was gross. Anyway, I'm sorry for that. You can't know this. I'm not badgering you by saying this. I was talking earlier about how I've started listening to more 70s prog because people say it's good and the bands that I like listen to it, but I don't know these bands. Right. Russ, I believe that's okay. So I probably grew up in a different time than you, but when I was a boy, they used to tell us that this was why the internet. so people from different sides, from the opposite sides of the factional divide could communicate. So Miss, and please, Shags, please. She doesn't need to know that. Not in this context. Um, I don't hate women. So when Annie, you ask me what job I want to do, that's always been the job that I wanted to do, is standing in the middle of factional divides and talking to both sides. Because the worst conflicts in history are about the most minute of differences. Because familiarity is what breeds contempt. So you ask me if I hate women or if I'm contemptuous of women, and it's like, well, no, I don't hate and I'm not contemptuous of women. I'm not familiar enough with them to hate them. Do I like violin music? Oh, that's cool. Unemployed. Sure, I'm unemployed. I work for myself. Yes, thankfully in the 90s, Bulgaria got their independence. I was going to ask you, I'm trying not to ask you a bunch of questions. Because women in the States, if you ask them questions, they think you're trying to get sex from them, and so I'm not trying to get sex from you. I'm just trying to keep you talking because I like asking questions and I like um, learning about people. And so that's really cool that you play violin. I was talking about that earlier before you showed up, actually. I was talking about that's why music is the way it is in the 1970s, just because everybody, not everybody, but almost every home had an instrument in it. And yeah, having an instrument is something that I wish I had. Like, I had a bass for a while, but a bass would not survive in these conditions. And so an instrument that could survive in these conditions is something I wish I had. Because those moments, like when I'm engaging with you, of course you like talking about yourself, you're Italian. That was me being funny. Um, but I've always wanted to say that to an Italian person. I'm sorry if that was offensive. I used to have Italian, New York Italian friends that I worked with. Anyway, um, the instrument in the home, I wish I had an instrument because these moments where I don't have anything to say because I'm waiting on you guys to interact back, I could be making music noise. I love electric guitar, bro. I do. I not even ashamed about it. It just sounds so cool to me. I am sorry, Miss Annie. I shouldn't have said that. I know. Right. I'm not trying to be racist, and I'm not trying to say that anybody's bad. I'm trying to say that everybody's beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. And you're allowed to want to talk about yourself. I have to turn my fan on. It started getting warm in here. Part of why I feel sweaty and wet is because I just wiped my body with a disposable washcloth that's got chamomile and vitamin E and aloe vera on it. Yeah, Mark, that's between me and my insecurity. But you're right. You are right. And my insecurity is my parents didn't like passive noise like that, so that's working through a cognitive block. And you're totally right, Mark. You're right. I know. I was in Walmart the other day and they had $1 drumsticks, and I was like, all you got to do is pick up this pair of drumsticks, and now people think that you're learning drums, and they don't care if the noises that you make are annoying. Yeah, answering questions is easier than asking them, for sure. That's why I just ask. I keep you talking. I don't think I'm particularly interesting, and I'll just talk about myself. Now I'm just enjoying watching the chat happen. This is the kind of moment I mean. I've thought about, oh, because she's my number 2. She's commented the second most of the people watching right now. That's why she has that little crown. I thought about getting, there's a music store down by the library where if I went down to the library I could make playlists for my channel, and they sell harmonicas for like $10. Really, it's just about telling myself that I'd like to spend that $10 on a harmonica, and not on a sandwich. Yeah, so Russ says that ever since he was a kid, he grew up watching our entertainment and listening to our music, and that it's very familiar to him, and he has a favorable inclination toward Americans. And it's very interesting because the Soviet Union was concerned with that, but our movies, it's so funny, I'm sure he will tell you that the movies that he likes probably depict American poverty more than like he would enjoy something like The Wolf of Wall Street. If I had to guess, this has been my case. This has been the case with other people that I've met, who liked American movies and liked the American culture and the way that we entertain one another, because they liked how honest it was. Because our movies don't feel like propaganda, because very often they aren't. Queen Annalise. I'm sure there was a Queen Annalise somewhere in history. It does have a good name. That's funny. I'm sure that Annalise is what Annie is long for, or Annie is short for. That's funny. Shags, you're struggling, buddy. I don't mind there being another Shaggy in the chat that I can call that, because now I'm not talking to myself, and I get to confuse Mr. S because I talk to myself all the fucking time. I can't pronounce that. Yeah, right. I was talking about that the other day on a somewhere, that Europeans just cannot comprehend what the First Amendment actually is for. I can stand in the street and flip off a cop if I feel like it, and there's absolutely nothing the fuck he can do about it. Have done. You are back. And your front. They're probably both there. You only get to see my front. I don't know that I like the Eagles music, but Hotel California is a fucking banger of a song. There's nowhere that you can listen in this song without hearing something fucking good. My background. Shags, I don't want to put you on timeout for trying to get laid in my chat. I think when it comes to music, like I'm listening to this song right now, and what they're doing, it's not that what they're doing is particularly difficult. They're just playing arpeggios for the most part. It's that there are so many of them doing it. They got the drummer, the bassist, 3 guitarists, and you have to be perfectly locked in because you're moving all of these sounds around at the same time. Yeah, the Wild West. I had a feeling. Are you a gamer? Do you really like Red Dead 2? People really dug that game. Just because there's a dude speaking doesn't mean that we're trying to sexually assault the women in the audience, Shags. We're better than that. Don't tell me to chill. That's cool, Ann. The 50s to the 80s were a good time in music. I get it. I like metal, so I've been listening to a lot of 80s metal. I had a feeling. I've never played the Red Dead games. Westerns are just not something I ever got into, but that's cool that you like them. I think it's cool when people like things that I don't like. No. I don't know why it's relevant, but no. I don't even think I've ever hooked up with a goth girl, to come to think of it. I tend to date and sleep outside my interests. I'm more interested in, like I said, I'm more interested in people who like things that I don't like. We have something to talk about. Well, I have something to listen to. Something that young men, all men really, I watch it happen all the time. You give love a bad name. Bon Jovi? That's funny. Peaceful Easy Feeling is a fucking good song. I do really like that song. No, the Eagles are great. I didn't mean to say that they're not good. I meant to say I don't know their music. And so I don't know if it's all like Hotel California. I know I really like Joe Walsh. I just know that. I really like the way he played. Um, that fucking song, is it called My Life's Been Pretty Good? Parenthetical pretty good? Or been pretty good in the parenthetical? You're from Kentucky, I'm from Ohio. I grew up in North Carolina, so we're not that distant, Mr. RD. That's okay. You don't have to mess with music. I have this stream is nominally for the future audience about music. I'm listening to a 1970s playlist curated off of, well, a radio station curated off of Supertramp's Logical song. I don't identify as a Buckeye, Mr. RD, but yes, I am half an hour west, half an hour east of Columbus. I am in the heart of Buckeye country. I lived in Columbus for 5 years. Uh, Buckeyes are intolerable douchebags, but yes. Hey, Ohio's beautiful. Okay, Jake. Thank you for sharing, bud. Another reason I don't necessarily always ask questions is you don't usually have to. But I was saying that's a mistake that young guys make in dating is they never shut the fuck up about themselves to ask a question. That's why America girls assume if you're asking them questions about themselves, you're just trying to fuck. You're 18, cool. you you were born 2 years after I graduated from high school. I'm 38, Jake. And that the whole, what are you, 12, asking girls questions about themselves, caring to listen to them, not talking about yourself? What are you, 12? Yeah, I had a feeling, Checks. That's why I was giving you a little bit of guidance. Yes, I look young because I didn't do things like alcohol, crack, or the sun in my 20s and early 30s. You probably, I'm not going to tell you not to move to the States, but I'm going to tell you that you probably wouldn't like it outside of California. So remember, she's here to watch me just like you are. She's not here to meet you. This isn't actually a live show that you're at. You're wherever you are, and she's wherever she is. Please don't make me put you on timeout for sexually harassing my audience. This doesn't even belong to me. Your peers. Well, Italians really like North Carolina, actually. That's where I worked in a restaurant in actually not even just a restaurant. I worked in Western North Carolina I lived in Western North Carolina for years, and we used to have all kinds of Italian tourists and just Italian immigrants. people who just wanted to live in the mountains of North Carolina. Not that they're not different from the Alps, but the Smokies are beautiful. I know you do, but this isn't a place where we're gonna. I'm just gonna stand by and let it happen. I'm not here to defend your honor. I don't have a moderator, so I'm here to establish rules. And since we have people coming and going, what is about this channel? This channel is about me, really. I am Shaggy. I am Philalitheia. The Shaggy is I am a Shaggy dog storyteller. What that means is that I tell stories with no ending or real point for tips. And Philalitheia is a word that was used by ancient, especially first century religious people. The first century Christians used this term, and it is derived from the Greek words phil, meaning lover, philos, lover, and aletheia, which is a word derived from Plato's Phaedrus, which is a book that I'm reading for the channel. And aletheia means not forgetting, aletheia, or letheia. Letheia means forgetfulness or forgetting, and the there means not. So philaletheia means lover of truth, effectively. It's a higher abstraction than the mindfulness of Buddhism. So what this channel is about is me raising the bar of spirituality in public for pennies. You watched me playing Dead Cells the other day. Yeah. And so a lot of what that manifests at right now, because I have a Patreon subscriber who's enjoying watching my Let's Plays, because I get bored and I start talking. And then I guess I get funny sometimes. But yeah, I spend my days in a Panera. You can see what's up, Junior. We're talking. Oh, we is me, the Royal. I spend my days in a Panera, charging my phone and my external batteries, my vapes and my microphones, my controller, and then I play outside. I do not resemble Rob Lowe, but thank you, Mark. I resemble Rob Lowe, and that Rob Lowe looks 30 years younger than he is. That's the only way in which I resemble Rob Lowe, is that I look significantly younger than what I am. If I resemble anybody, I resemble a Jim Carrey with a very crooked face. I didn't break my nose, but I take responsibility for it. I was talking earlier about how if you're going to do stupid things, there's no judgment from me. Just be prepared to take responsibility for it being stupid. When I was a little kid, you can maybe see it. When I was a little kid, I had a boomerang. For whatever reason, when I was in kindergarten, my parents bought me a boomerang, and me and the neighbor kid were playing fucking frisbee with it like idiots, and I caught it right to the fucking eye. And it staved in that part of my skull. We're talking, Lord Dragonfire. This is the job I've always wanted. There isn't a better job than this one for me, Shags. This is what I've always wanted to do with my life. I've always wanted to be a monastic. I've always wanted to live in hermitage. And I am. I finally worked my way up the corporate ladder enough to be able to abandon it entirely. I used to manage restaurants, gas stations, service and retail, whatever. And I was too good. I was too good to keep the jobs after a while, because I made the people above me insecure about their jobs, because they weren't good at their jobs and couldn't do my job. So their superiors noticed me, and so I just kept getting pushed out. Kept getting pushed out. And so finally I opened my life up to the possibility that maybe I was supposed to be doing something else with it. And I met a woman. I don't know that I could say I like astrology, but my sign is Cancer. I was writing a book, and I met a woman who said that she wanted to invest in me as a writer and a podcaster. And so she brought me into her home, and 4 years of grueling abuse because of her fucking mental health. Later, I chose to fight eviction, make myself homeless at the hands and responsibility of the state, sold everything that she'd ever bought me, bought this tent, and here I am. Dr. Aman, thank you. This is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. There's not enough time. There's just not enough time to read and think and understand and get right with God and then give back to the community when you're working 60 hours a week. Yeah, it was what it was. Thank you for your gratitude, Mark, and for your sympathy, Russ. These aren't things that happened to me. The things that happened to me when I was younger than you can really comprehend, being the kind of person that I am. Yeah, it sucked, but we get through it. That's why I talk, that's why Josh and I were talking earlier, if you want to reason to scroll back into the video, but my buddy and Josh and I were talking about how sometimes you just gotta push through the other side of the shit sandwich. It's just all there is. It's like the Power Thirst, the old Picnic Face YouTube video from back in the day. Back in my day, probably from before you were even born, Shags. Power Thirst 2 opens with a voiceover that says, if God gives you lemons, find a new God. And yeah, that's why when people ask me, do you believe in God, I always say, you're going to want to define that before I answer that question. It's so beautiful outside the tent. I should move it so you guys can see it instead of me. It's just so beautiful. I just sit here, and even the dead plants, I just sit here and I just marvel at how beautiful it is out here. Did I get that in a... Probably not. You're probably just mostly looking at me, but yeah. It's so peaceful. Oh, I left my chair set up and I'm sitting in here like an idiot. It's getting all sweaty and gross. Ugh. Yeah, this is... And then, of course, right behind me is a Coles, so... that's gonna fall down the hill. Russ asks me, he phrases it, did I complain? And so you're asking me, did I go to superiors or any of these kinds of things? And no. Because I didn't want those jobs. I just wanted to do my job well. And so the times that I did defend myself by saying, hey, what the fuck? This is... Where I said, hey, what the fuck? This is a toxic work environment. The times I did do that were times that I lost those jobs, is the easiest way to say that. So it's not that I didn't, it's that I would just move on. Alright. It's even nicer out here. We're going to hit 2 hours easy, and with profit. That's cool. Hello, Nero. I don't know whether Ohio has bears. Mark, I would prefer to be smoking flower. I can't afford it. I don't know any other human beings in this town, so I don't have a dealer. And these little vapes cost me $21 for 5 grams, which is about... Hi Nero. I see you, buddy. They're $21, 22, you know, if you round up from change, for 5 grams. And that gets me like maybe 10 days. And so I've been able to make $21 in the span of a vape for these 10 months. I'm doing great, Hero, and hi, Silver. It's great to see you guys. But I would prefer grass. The process of packing a bowl, preparing a bong, I prefer that. It's meditative, spiritual in some way. But everything is what you choose to make of it, right? And so we just find ways to use the... Yeah. Yeah, you really don't want to hit it long. The longer you hit it, the more likely you are to ruin the juice. Whatever it's called. Yep, this is why I tend to ignore people who only say hello. Not because we want to be heroes. Somebody asked me if I smoke grass or just vape. I prefer the real thing. People are curious, so I have no problem documenting it for the future. Basically is where we're at, Hero. We've been talking about music. Sort of. Give me a second. I gotta... You know, I've never been to a Buc-ee's. Yeah, see, Russ says that in Bulgaria, senior employees tend to be a little careful with junior employees because junior employees have this luxury to complain, and the company will set up a counseling to sort things out. And that right there is what this is a huge, huge battle in the United States right now. Okay, huge battle. Hi, Leo. But the corporate HR world has been trying over the course of the last decade to insert themselves in the middle of what we're talking about with that model, Russ. And so that's a good model. And the United States is resisting it because the United States workplace is extremely fucking toxic as a culture. Top down. And so there's a certain amount of post-Marxism, post-communism that's gotten into the American university system in the liberal worldview because Marxism and communism are absolutely liberal. And so in a country like Bulgaria, this is me pontificating or speculating. I obviously don't know what I'm talking about, but I've known a few Bulgarians, and I've tried to learn about your country. A post-communist country would have good ideas about how to implement post-communist ideas. You see what I'm saying? And so admirable that your corporations aren't allowed to just mistreat their employees, and not even in the name of profit, because you don't make more money when you treat your subordinates like shit. Your stores make less money because you have more turnover. And so it's a problem that needs to be addressed in the US, but we're too French. That's what it comes down to. I'm not trying to shit on any particular French person, but our worldview as far as the way we do capitalism is too French. Embezzlement, yeah, basically. At every level. Managers are embezzling at every level in the United States. They're just doing it in invisible and not illegal ways. A lot of what they embezzle is emotional, so I'm kind of sad that my buddy Josh didn't tell me goodbye. We were getting into heavy stuff, and then he just kind of. So I hope he does. I hope he subscribes to the Patreon. He said he was going to subscribe. So if you subscribe at $10 or more, I can at least reach out to him. And that's for all of you. I know that it sounds like I'm asking a lot. $10, that's, who would do that? But if you need the kind of person in your life who's actually going to remember to say, hello, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Get out there and kick ass. I'm only charging $10 a month. And it makes us both better. It's how I know you need it, because just asking for it is something that narcissists will do so that I'll be doing it. Hey agent, if you do that, that's awesome. I'll be looking forward to making your better acquaintance there. Um, but I don't want anybody to ever feel like they have to do anything. I really struggle with this because people don't like that. They don't like that because when God compels you, you don't have a choice. So they don't. I have to figure out another way to articulate that. Then you don't have to, because like when I say that to the kid who buys my lunch sometimes at Panera, he kind of gives me this look like, well, I feel like I do, so I am. It's a learning process for both of us. Just because I've always wanted to do this doesn't mean I've got the experience. I've got 10 months of experience. Doesn't mean I'm good at it. And you know, I've got a lot of baggage that I'm carrying with me. I absorbed a lot. I absorbed a lot of damage. And so cognitively, behaviorally, when we're talking about damage and we're talking about scars, we're talking about stress response. I can enjoy sarcasm, Mark, but I prefer to be able to hear it and to be able to see it. Because my therapist highly recommended that I not seek out an autism diagnosis, but I'm probably autistic in that I can be hyper literal by accident and on purpose. I think it's funny because I think it's funny to do on purpose because it's always funny when I do it by accident. Does that make sense? So sarcasm is also, it's hard for me to answer because sarcasm used to mean irony with ridicule. So irony meant to cause damage, right? To hurt the feelings of something, or uh, to express a negative emotion. I like irony a great deal. Um, some people's reliance on the emotion contempt, I don't love. Welcome back, Shags. I don't like contempt. I try to avoid using contempt. I try to avoid feeling contempt. And when I feel contempt, I try, this is me. I'm not saying that you have to do anything else or anything similar. I try to move past it and get to empathy. Um, Russ wants to know why the property value is so expensive in the United States. Um, the answer to that is very simple, but it's complicated. Because I'm going to tell you an answer that nobody else will ever tell you, except for professionals in the field. And they couch it in essay after essay after essay after essay after book after book after book after book of preface. Because nobody in the middle class wants to hear the answer. But the answer is that the middle class since 1969 has been flipping properties, and they've been using real estate, houses on property, to artificially manufacture high property values for lots of reasons. One of those reasons is racism, for sure. The other reason is manufactured wealth. And so manufactured wealth is where people who really are in the middle, maybe even in the lower middle class, have enough liquid money that they're able to do things that people be above the middle class, people in the true upper class, are able to do. So the reason our property values are out of control is because people who are not temperamentally inclined or competent own all of the property that's getting rent. Well, Dinovich, the answer to why our property values are so high, being pure greed, is oversimple. It's true, but it's oversimple because it was only one generation. It was the boomers. Jack, I don't know what you're asking me, and if you're asking me what I think you're asking me, you're going to get the same thing that Shags keeps getting. Hello, Miss Tiffany. Epic dream. Yeah. It was the idea that you could fake the American dream. America's really deep. Yes. We're a young nation, but we're an extremely complex nation because we're the only nation in the world's history that was built on immigrants and populated with immigration. We're the first true colony nation in the history of the world. A colony isn't what you were taught. A colony is actually a colony is where a large body sends a small body that remains in conversation with the large body. So we're a colonial nation. We have all of these immigrant people who remain in contact with their home nations. Sort of, Dinovich. Those companies are actually small to medium sized, and they're middle class. The people who own them are middle class, low middle class, trying to manufacture wealth to pretend like they're wealthier than they are, so they can marry outside their class structure. I watch it happen every day in Panera. The people who are doing the thing you're talking about, they talk very loud on phone calls because they want the people around them to think they're rich, and so I just eavesdrop all day long, every single day, and have for 10 months. The answer isn't greed, the answer is generational incompetence. See, in Europe, you don't have this problem because the people who own everything, even in communist nations, the reason you were able to be communist is because the people who owned everything were maybe three families. Uh, that's hard to answer, but yeah. The majority of people who identify as white in America have British or French ancestry. Dinovich, I'm not sure what your my buddy Russ here, who asked me the question, he's in Bulgaria. That's a former communist country. I'm contextualizing his answer for somebody who doesn't live in the United States. And in during the Cold War, especially after the 1980s, a lot of people who had grown up with a communist worldview and communist neuronal structures and communist language systems immigrated to the United States. Europe is majority communist, yes. And their sensibilities, their neuronal structures. They're majority communist because everything was owned by maybe three families. And so they share everything in common. Europe has a poverty worldview in general. The average any average European you're going to meet has a poverty mindset. That's why they come to the United States. It's because the United States tells them they don't have to be poor, and in fact will reward you for not wanting to be poor, because the United States is happy to be poor. Well, you don't know how to spell GRU, so I'm not going to assume that you know anything, Dinovich. You're going to have to build out your argument. I just gave a very good argument for why I'm right. I'm not talking about the governments, Russ. I understand what you're saying. I'm talking about the brains, the neuronal structures and the languages that are spoken. I didn't know. It makes sense that the Bulgarians would have good coffee. But I didn't know that. That's cool. Thank you for telling us that, Mark. I didn't know it makes sense, but I didn't know yogurt either. It only makes sense. Yogurt was invented by Indo-European speaking steppe peoples around the Caspian Pontic Sea. And the people who settled Bulgaria and speak the native language, they weren't that far away genetically. I've been reading books about the spread of the Indo-European language family. And Lithuania is today not all that different. And the way they make their yogurt is the ancient way. And so I bet that's true, that Bulgaria makes bomb-ass yogurt and eats it in cool ways. Cool ways that would gross me the fuck out, but I'm lactose intolerant. Yogurt hurts me bad. Yogurt hurts me bad. That's cool. And thanks for confirming, Russ. I was speculating based on what I know. It's always good to it's always good to get confirmation that I'm not saying something racist and ignorant. I will let you dudes know I'm starting to get tired, which means I'm gonna have to move on to the next thing. I'm not getting bored. I'm just starting to get cognitively tired. Trying to take these people that then throw temper tantrums because they have to act civilized in public. It wears on me after a while. Yeah, the governments over there in Europe are mostly now they're mostly New Deal governments, because after the Cold War they all wanted the government that West Germany had. West Germany has a New Deal American democracy. So of course the government structures are monarchies and New Deal style democracies. That's not what I mean. I mean the people, the worldview, the systematic thinking, like when we were earlier. She inherited a man from the early Middle Ages. Yeah, English, it's interesting. English seems to be one of those things, especially in your part of Europe, where people resist it culturally, like we resist Spanish and Chinese here. Learning Spanish and Chinese here can be, in the United States, can be very lucrative. It can really help you get work. And I'm sure that in Central and Eastern Europe, being able to speak English will get you work. Even if, you know, somebody in the middle or the upper class might say that work isn't good enough work. It's like I told Annie, like there's just no shame in a hard day's effort. There's no shame in it. There are ways to spend a day giving no effort and making hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars a day, but that harassment in that manifests in escalating rent prices. And so Europe went through that in the 14th century, and that's why I say that modern Europeans find Americans staggeringly backward, because our economic politics are fucking 700 years outdated. But that's because of what Russ asked, what he asked. Well, aren't the majority of people there English or of French descent? And it's like, where I am in the middle of the country, in the Midwest, Louisiana, just that middle block of the country that's not the East Coast, almost entirely French. Hey, we like the Slavic accent over here, actually. You probably have noticed that the cool guy, the guy that's just effortlessly cool in our music, always has a Slavic accent. Always. The Slav accent is always the guy that's effortlessly cool in our movies. Always. There's a comedian, I can't think of his name, but he's of Italian descent. He's a New York Italian. Um, and he always ends up doing a lot of crowd work with the Slavs because he likes talking to them. And he dated a girl from somewhere. And you understand that I'm using Slavic and Slav affectionately, I hope, because I know there's some, especially in the former Soviet Union, there's a lot of negativity there. I'm unlikely to greet you back for your username. I hope you know that. First impressions and everything. I've been kind of threading this all together with this 70s playlist I'm listening to, and I haven't listened to a lot of it. I only know maybe 3 songs, but the 3 songs that I know by Fleetwood Mac I really like a lot. I really like a lot. And I think what I like is the bass and Stevie Nicks, which means that I probably like Stevie Nicks' solo work a lot. My life is about the truth, beef stick. Was it Randy Savage that used to do the "Oh yeah"? Call you Slim Jim. My life is snapping into a Shaggy Dog story. That's what my life is about. I'm a homeless person. I live in a tent as a monastic and religious. And today I'm doing crowd work because I had a thought that was going to get stuck in my head and I wasn't going to share it with anyone. And now Okay, well, how was I supposed to know what you meant if you didn't take the time to make sure you spelled the word you meant? Anyway, I just answered both questions. I was just talking about how I've been threading this whole thing together with the 1970s playlist I'm listening to. Did you miss that part? I did say I'm doing crowd work, so if you want to talk, I'm probably going to make fun of you. I already did tell you that. Righteous anger is the purview of the monastic and religious. Hey, don't worry about not talking, Miss Ann. I have been talking about you plenty. I'm glad that you're getting dinner, though. I'm glad to hear that. Probably spaghetti, right? You don't break it. I know that. I shouldn't do those. People don't know that I'm teasing and that I do know better. And they don't know my random passersby aren't going to know my deep, deep spiritual affection for the Italian people. Hey, no, that's cool. And yeah, you guys do sound like you have a sore throat with the way you talk, but we love it, man. And yeah, I'm sure your teacher was happy. I'm sure your teacher was elated. And yeah, don't break your spaghetti. No, you didn't. You spelled life and then you meant live. Don't call me a dipshit. You're the one who identifies with other people's penises. Now I kind of want macaroni and cheese, and I'm not even being funny about it. I just thought about it, and I was like, ooh, I can hurt my tummy for only $9. That white cheese and bacon is so good, especially when they burn my bacon. And sometimes they will burn my bacon for me. I do know her name. I shouldn't say her name because there are people, I'm sure that there are people in Zanesville. There are people in Zanesville who are subbed to my stuff. Portobello, yeah, you told me that. People really do that. People really go into Italian pizza spots asking for pineapple on their pie just to offend the house. I see it on YouTube yeah, I see it in shorts, YouTube and TikTok. I see it all the time. I thought it was a meme that I thought it was a meme that people didn't actually do. You understand? That really, yeah, I would get offended too. I love pineapple on pie though. You probably get offended when I call it a pie. That's upsetting to me. I don't like that. No wonder. See, that is a real thing. Look, I pay attention to Italy. I have a deep affection for it. And there's a real reason that Venetians, for instance, just don't fucking like tourists. Please don't um, please don't take licenses with what or license with how you refer to me. That's not what I wanted to do. That's upsetting. It's particularly upsetting to me because Italy and Greece are where hospitality, the tavern, restaurant traditions began. And so going there and being rude to a tradition that's 5,000 years old really pisses me off. That really gets under my skin. Really bad. I'm all the time talking about how, if you're working in a retail or a service environment, you reserve the right, and your corporation is designed, or your company is supposed to support and defend your right to refuse service to anybody. But when I see these meme videos of the proprietor, like your dad, kicking people out, he's not just within his rights, he's right to do that. That's effectively his home in the tradition. Religiously, your restaurant is your home, and you're inviting people into your home. I find that very upsetting. So thanks for giving me an outlet to talk about it. She says she loves to cook. She likes to do it the proper way. Yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of that out loud for the future. Um, not using your words. But yeah, whenever she meets boys, they always say stupid things about the fact that she likes to cook. And it's like, right, right. You're inviting them into your life. You're making them something that sustains their life force, and then they're going to say some stupid, hurtful shit. Neapolitan pizza is my favorite, man. Oh my god. Neapolitan's so good. Sicilian's good too, but Neapolitan in a fire, what do they call it? A stone oven or a brick oven? Oh my god. I used to work in a little Neapolitan spot, and we had people that would come in and be like, "I'm just left Naples and it doesn't look like this." And it's like, "Well, you're not in Naples." They weren't Italian. If they were Italian, I would have asked, "Well, what's different? You're obviously from Italy." But they weren't. They were just dickhead middle-class white kids, usually in their mid-20s. I worked at a New York style spot too. Russ also said he loves New York style pie, and I've never been to New York, so I've never had a real New York style pie. But I used to work for a guy who grew up in Chicago and made New York style instead of Chicago style, and we used to have New York Italians that came in there for lunch every day. So I'm assuming that he got it at least close. The big triangle slices that are bigger than your head. You got to fold in half, and then they run all that grease all down the middle. It's good stuff. Now I'm hungry. Now I want pizza. How we doing? 2.5? All right. I just hit 0 on my external battery. Good stuff. I now know that the lives without the without a game, burn less battery. We can do this basically all day if we wanted. So I could take you on my walks and stuff. I just wouldn't be able to interact with you because, you know, walking on the roads and trying not to die and stuff. But alright, dudes, I'm beginning to think that the time has come. If you have anything else, any other questions, any other closing comments, the floor is yours for now. Basically, the two of you. And I have to decide what I actually want to do with the rest of my day. I want to eat. I know that. I want to get something to eat. Maybe I go and I get a pizza. Maybe I go and get a calzone. I got a little pizza spot beside me. A calzone's only like $10. If I really wanted to splurge, I could get a calzone and a salad probably for 20. Pasta al dente? Yeah, I know that's that's another thing. I'm sorry that this is nauseating while I get my tripod step back up. I know that's a whole thing. People have very strong, very strong opinions about how dente their pasta should be. Moussaka? I feel like I've seen moussaka on a menu or in a grocery store. I wouldn't ask for it for free and I wouldn't expect it for free, but if you wanted to insist on not letting me pay, I would tell you thank you and leave you a tip. Leave you the same tip I was going to leave anyway. I used to love giving away food, whether it was to people who obviously needed it because they were homeless or having a bad day or, you know, having a bad time of it financially, or just to be like, you seem like you need a sandwich today. Here's your sandwich. Yeah, it's something, that's what I'm learning. That's why I've talked about how I'm practicing now not saying you don't have to do this, because what I'm learning is that some people don't do acts of kindness out of compulsion because they feel like they have to or they need to. They do it because they want to. And so my saying you don't have to do this makes them feel like what I'm saying is, I know you're only doing this for you, and it makes them feel bad about how they wanted to do it for me. Yeah, it's about, I'm learning that. I spent my young adult, well, I spent my life until putting myself at the mercy of strangers in a real way for the last 2 years. I spent my life going without simple kindnesses. So I'm learning. I'm learning how to not let people be kind to me, but how to accept them, how to be grateful in the proper way. People think I'm proud, and I can get that. Yeah. Yes. Hey, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys, Russ. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the positivity. You know, some days I really struggle with asking, like, you know, if I'm on the internet to be positive and help people get through their hard times. Sometimes I really ask myself, you know, where does mine come from? And what I've learned, talking to you about what I'm learning, is that I get it back from people who hang out with me and do kindnesses with me or for me, not expecting anything in return from me or anyone else. And so it's about, and this is something that I feel like I've been preaching about, but for me, it's something that I have to really remind myself, and I really have to pray about, is getting on here and doing this thing and talking about these things and doing everything that I do. Like even yesterday, I walk into the Panera and the spot that I usually sit at was filthy. Some mother had let her kid make a fucking mess with the macaroni and cheese. And so nobody in the front of house was going to come out and clean it up, and it was just going to sit there all day until it was crusty and disgusting. So I just went and got some sanitizer towels and cleaned it off, and I didn't want anybody to even mention it. I would have been annoyed if anybody in the dining room had even mentioned it, that I was doing it. But I didn't just clean the table, I cleaned the whole fucking high chair, because the next person that uses that high chair deserves a sanitized high chair for their child. And so, yeah, there's a lot of why I say you don't have to do that the way I do is because I'm saying, oh, I wasn't saying that thing that hit you in the way that you felt compelled to tip me so that you would tip me. I was just saying it. And you don't need to hear that every time. Nobody needs to hear it every time. Hey, no, man. I appreciate you, miss. You don't have anything to apologize for, and I'm here. I'm here so that people can sub and they can just check in. I have several real life friends who don't actually watch my work, but they've subbed and they keep the bell on so they can text me and be like, "Hey, are you good? You haven't posted yet today, or you didn't post yesterday. Are you good?" And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to, I don't mean to be a leader anywhere, but the monastic tradition in Europe did settle most of Europe. And so if I'm being a leader, it's in authenticity, it's in sharing and expression, but really it's just about being an example. Like, yeah, I absolutely accept donations. I have my PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and Patreon are all those links are all in my profile, and they might even be in the description of this live. I may have remembered to do that, but don't stress about it. Um, if it hits your heart to do, and I said something that you like, I need to practice just expressing the gratitude and then asking, what did I do? Because that's what I'm trying to get at here with you. Is it's more important to me that you have what you need, and then I need to know what I did so I can continue doing it. If you valued it, not because you valued it, but because it was what you needed from me. Does that make sense? I don't really know yet. I'm still learning. I don't know how to articulate it in a way that doesn't make me seem hurtful. But thank you. It's not that I don't want your money. I absolutely want to eat, right? I just want to make sure it's most important to me that you guys are good first. That you have your food and that you're taking care of yourselves. If in the process of that, and I started to talk about this the other day, the way I would do it, if you asked me, Shaggy, how would you do it? What I would do is every time I bought a sandwich, I would send me $1, something like that. I'm not saying that's what you should do, because I'm never saying that you should be like me, but that's what I would do. When I've had friends who were struggling, every time I bought a sandwich, I would just send them a few bucks. Like, here, I'm buying lunch. I'm going to buy less than I would normally buy for myself today so that you can make sure that you get a sandwich. Or like, show up to work. One of my other moves is, I would just go to like someplace, Wendy's, Burger King, whatever, and get an extra sandwich and then just bring it into work and, hey, whatever her name was, just any fake female name. Hey, Crystal, do you want this? Because I know you didn't eat before you came in from work, that kind of thing. I wouldn't ask for that. But if someone were to ask me, because I started talking about this the other day, if someone were to ask me how I would model it if I had the money, that's what I would do. Yes. You get out of life. Miss Annie says, I'm a strong believer in what you give, you get back. And yeah, I talk about it on the channel all the time, that I spend my money the way I do in the economy. And it was my birthday on the 1st of July. So for the month of July, I spent more money than I needed to in environments where I could tip, believing that if I spent it, it would come back to me. And Philalitheia, Elsa Olsen, means, it's a Greek, and it means lover of truth. The Phil comes from philos, lover, like philosopher or philosophy, and where philosophy means lover of wisdom, Sophia being the goddess wisdom, Aletheia is the goddess truth. And so, on some level, yes. On some level, I want a sustainable income. I want to earn $1,000 a month is my goal right now. $1,000 a month will put me in an apartment. A studio in this area is $450 a month. $1,000 a month will let me cover that and everything else. I don't believe in an ideology, Kay. I believe that ideology is danger, and so if I'm ideological, I'm idiosyncratic as well. I follow my ideology, and Amber, I may be Jesus. Bits. Oh, very probably. I just interact with them because I respond to them because these are just things that I want on the record for the future. They're things that they're questions or question or responses that I want to make available to people who stumble on me to watch these. What I mean is that the return of Christ was meant to be someone who actually understood and embodied the teachings. I don't know that I've got everything. Oh. I think I just packed up all of my shit while I was talking, so thank you guys for that. You guys just helped me keep myself organized in a way that left me confident that I have that down to a routine. I'm interested in the dialogue that's happening between these two for the future. This person says that asked whether the only begotten son. I'm just interested in this stuff. Sorry if it's upsetting to you, and I actually am, but I'm interested in this. Kind of want to watch them argue about whether Jesus prayed, "Our Father who art in heaven." The Father there, I don't know why, but I'm interested in the Father theology. I don't understand it. I have an extremely fraught relationship with my Father. So God the Father is somebody that I don't trust at all. Whew. That was fun. Probably could have let you see that I just walked out of that ravine, but whatever. Hello to Sao Paulo City, Brazil. I'm going to turn you around, you can see my walk. I'm right on the other side of civilization. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't put it on video, but this is where people throw rocks down at my tent. As you can see, there are rocks, and there are my tent. So, while there are no, as you see, they've for the most part gotten all of the easily available big rocks. They'd have to walk over here in order to get one, and that's a little bit more effort than most vandals of opportunity are willing to do. So hey, that's cool. That's really cool, Miss Ann, actually, because I was telling you earlier that I'm writing this novel that's set in Genoa, Italy, and it takes place mostly from the Rigi, the Jewish quarter. I'm extremely interested. That's why I was talking about hospitality. I am extremely interested in the very deep Jewish communal roots in Italy and Greece, like the science district where they've actually got a space observatory and everything in the Rigi district in Genoa, and that's been a Jewish colony since before the fall of Rome. That's fascinating to me. My ex-wife, her master's work to get her public history degree was helping her professor, one of her professors, do the research on a project about the Jewish communal links between Europe and the American colonies in the 18th century or the 17th century. And they were building this argument that the only reason that the English colonies survived at all was because of Jewish immigrants. Hey, you know, I'm bummed to hear that your parents separated. That's pretty common in the US. That's about the time that my parents separated. But I'm glad to hear that they both remained active in your life. My dad decided to fuck off from all of his responsibilities until I was 19. No, if we're blind and don't know what we do, we're not innocent. If we don't know that it's sexual misconduct, it's still sexual misconduct. Yeah, I hate that, Annie. People do say a lot of bad and stupid things because they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yep, you just fight it with love. Absolutely, you just fight it with love. And that's why I get agitated at people that want to get at me about Jesus and God and all of these things, and that's why I'm relativistic about it. Because I know a lot of Christians who are just fucking assholes. Fight and love they have to mix. Absolutely have to mix. Because if I love somebody and someone is trying to hurt them, I'm absolutely going to fight that person that's trying to hurt them to defend my love. Absolutely, I'm going to do that. Paul, I don't know what book it is. It might be Corinthians, what epistle rather, but Paul is talking all the time about the armor and the weapons of God. That you don't put on armor and weapons to go stand in a public square. You put on armor and weapons to go out and fight. I guess I could show this little... This is what Ohio looks like. It just looks like blue everywhere you can fucking see. And this is the hilly part of Ohio. That's my favorite site, by the way. That's my favorite view. That hill line over there. I love hills and mountains. That's my favorite thing to look at in town. Just sit up here and check out over there. It's beautiful. Is it a fight or is it love? Well, it might be love if what I'm doing is teaching the person who's trying to hurt my loved one not to be the way they're being. You know, God's love for us required the death of his son. He did violence to himself in order to demonstrate to us what love is. I can't get behind passive worldview. Like I've been studying the Viking Age for too long, so like we have this idea that the Vikings just showed up and attacked all these Christian sites that were unable to defend themselves, and that's just not what happened. What did happen is that they showed up at all these sites that the governments decided they weren't going to defend because they didn't want to, and it would put their lives at risk. And so they let all these monks and nuns and priests get absolutely massacred because they weren't willing to fight for what they loved. Fuck that. I won't. Well, my job might be to teach a man a lesson kicking in my door to rob or kill me. That lesson might be that he picked the wrong door. Russ, the whole anti-Semitism thing is about what this Elsa is confused about. It's about people picking someone that they think is disenfranchised or unable to defend themselves. That's all. Nice signal, thank you. Bitch. Right. And that's the why. So like later religious developments than the Jewish strain, they preach all of these things that Jewish people were already doing. And so because the later evolutions aren't doing the things they're preaching, they have to get rid of the people actually doing the thing. Elsa, go away. Why are you the way you are? Because you're very stupid, that's why. That's exactly what I'm talking about. She goes from preaching to me, I disagree with her on a fundamental point, and then she goes immediately to an ad hominem attack. It's the exact same thing. The exact same thing is happening with anti-Semitism. She sees a homeless person talking about the Word of God. She thinks that she can come in and co-opt his message. When he pushes back, she goes to an ad hominem attack. It's the same thing. That's funny, Miss Annie. You're probably right. You might be right. Who knows? I don't know. Nah, yeah, they're just trolling. I don't know what their behavior is about, but you also never know when you're going to change somebody's behavior. You're never going to know when you're going to teach somebody. Somebody in the future might come around and see me react to that and decide that, oh, wow, I've been behaving that way and didn't realize it was bad. So now I'm going to stop. Because we believe, like you talked about, optimism, right? Optimal outcomes. We prefer to be open to the idea that the best possible outcome could happen. And so we're going to put ourselves in a difficult position in good faith that we're going to get the best possible outcome. Prepare for the worst, or what? Prepare for the best, but we're ready for the worst, that sort of thing. I'm sure that this is so windy you can barely hear me anymore. And here I've been lamenting no wind the last several days. That's just such a nice day today. It's been such a beautiful day. It is absolutely going to rain though. And there we go. That's my commute to work. I'm going to go ahead and call this a day. Thank you guys so much for the conversation. Even thank you for the adversity, right? Even thank you for the things that we didn't enjoy, but this Panera is busy today, so I'm not going to go in here talking to you. Thank you very much. I'll be back around. I'm going to get my stuff charged, and then we're going to be playing Symphony of the Night later. So thank you. You too, miss. Have a lovely day. It was really great getting to make your acquaintance. Take care, all of you.